Welcome to TradeTheNBR.com. This is John. This report is for the 8th of November. And while the Trump trade continues, this is not too different than what happened in 2016, but you can already see the effects of it 24 hours after. And it's quite dramatic. I mean, you've had the governments in Germany fail because they got rid of the Biden minister that was pretty much dictating how things would go. Same thing happened in Israel when they fired the defense minister and that. So you can see that the alignment from world leaders is changing. Putin came out, was talking about how courageous Trump was during, his assassination attempt, and then Zelensky fawning over Trump after all the negative things he was saying before. And inside word is that they're going to be pulling out of the cursed area, which is their invasion of Russia, since it's not going to be effective. But the handwriting's on the wall, and world leaders are already starting to change. We already saw from a U.S. company standpoint, you got about 3 months to get your business up and running in America. Steve Madden announced that they're going to cut China imports by about 45%. So things are moving quickly because they can see already what's going to happen, and the market's recognizing it. And despite all of the terror points that people point out about tariffs, this, that, and the other, they're going to be targeted. It's just nonsense to suggest that there's going to be broad tariffs everywhere. It's literally going to be forcing business to choose. You can do business in America, or you can pay a hefty fee for the right to sell your product in America. If you produce it in America, you got no fees. It's pretty much that simple. Trump coming out declaring that there will be mass deportations. Of course, they're not going to do that because there's going to be all sorts of legal challenges, but it's going to be pretty hard to fight the challenges on convicted criminals, which is primarily who they're going to be going for. So, yeah, a lot of dynamics there. NASDAQ obviously doing very well within that. Will you see Apple and some of these other chip makers and things start to reevaluate where they're producing stuff? Uh, Very much so. And it's going to have a dramatic effect. Now, will we see a lot of movement when that starts to happen? Yeah. It's not going to be a one way trip. Of course, the Fed cut another quarter. Powell resistantly said that he will not quit if asked to leave. That could be another interesting showdown. California announced a special session to fight Trump. So that side of the coin is not ending. And of course, some of the lawfare stuff, which effectively has ended because of his election, though some of them have claimed they're not going to stop. But supremacy clause is going to certainly take care of that one. That's not going to be really a thing. And Joe Biden came out with very conciliatory remarks. So some of that fractured nature is, it's still going to play out. But it's interesting enough that when you look at the results as they took place, everywhere voter ID was required, you had Trump winning, and even in the places that don't, he came very close to flipping them. Um, you know, these are real things. When you look at this chart, it becomes very interesting when we all talk about it. I mean, this is Barack Obama in 2012, 2016, and then Harris, but somehow 15 million people disappeared. It's a good question. So where'd they go? Um, yeah, don't even know what else to add to that. It's pretty obvious there. Whether there'll be declaration of a need for federal voter ID for elections could be an important thing from a treasury standpoint. A slight improvement there because obviously yield coming down, but still, this is where you're going to get into an interesting situation. The difference between the yield of what the market is going to demand based on where inflation is today, whether that will continue, uh, really is going to be the subject of a lot of questions because at the end of the day, um, it's not going to happen for a while because you're already seeing the Biden administration, them trying to implement restrictions and all sorts of other difficulties to make for drilling and stuff like that. I don't think that they'll be that hard to overcome, but it remains to be seen. It's going to be a battle. And, of course, they know that they're heading into that, and that's exactly what they expect. But the difference is you have someone with a lot more previous experience than before. Oops, I went too far there. That was oil. We look at oil. It's going to take some time before anything really happens there, and uh, like I said, you're not going to be able to just turn it on instantly. But coming into the second quarter after the election inauguration, yeah, you could see some dramatic effects pretty darn quickly. And I think just the rhetoric, you know, has a big impact. You can talk big and actually not have to do anything, particularly if people believe you're going to do the thing you say. From a euro standpoint, there was a nice little comeback from it, but the euro is toast. It's kind of laughable. It's going to be interesting how the credit markets deal with this situation because it's going to be complicated for them. The reality is, if there's any kind of squeeze on the credit liquidity, particularly as it comes to this trade issue, you could see some of these foreign currencies suffer quite a bit. That's going to be a dramatic play back and forth. From a gold standpoint, in the short term, you might see some volatility of it back and forth, but overall, it's still going to continue its climb. Inflation hasn't stopped. This was the strange thing, the Biden administration touting how wonderful everything was economically because the rate of inflation increase had dropped so much. Well, you went from, double-digit inflation to, low mid, 3%, 4%. But that's still rising prices. It's like, duh. Bitcoin in them, it's going to take some time. But that was a huge move, and it's going to continue itself. It's just a matter of how rapid. Like I said, ETH probably will outdo Bitcoin in this one simply because of the regulatory ease that they're looking for. And it's not going to happen until well into the middle of next year. But of course, futures obviously are going to be playing this leading up to it because it is going to happen. When we look at it from a intraday standpoint, it was pretty clean. Not a whole lot to do. And a couple of fillbacks, some positive streams, but there really weren't that many simply because everyone was pretty much on the same page with direction. And now in the European session, you get a little back and forth. I don't know if I have 50K here, is right there. So pretty darn clean. And then a continuation of it. All pretty exciting stuff, but there's going to be a lot of hand wringing and things like that going on in between, and you can already see the resist element is going to start up again. I just don't know how effective it'll be since everybody already knows it already, and so some of these are known quantities, and I think that becomes really the catalyst for things. A lot of this is going to be movement based on the perception of what will happen rather than actually any actual policy change other than just the talk of one. So we'll see. As always, anything relevant, I'll put in the Skype chat. Have a good one. Trade well.